At Thanksgiving, my mother tapped her glass, the silver rim ringing lightly, but carrying the weight of her usual expectation. She smiled the way she always did when she wanted the room to look at Lily. That controlled, deliberate smile that made it clear who was meant to shine. "Sister's wedding was great," she announced, voice bright and sharp. Then she tilted her head slightly, glancing at me, and added, "So, Kat, when's yours?" A few polite laughs trickled out around the table. The kind of laugh that fills empty space without actually acknowledging anything. My father kept carving the turkey, as if the precise slicing of meat could shield him from the moment. Lily didn't say a word. She just watched me with that careful, measured attention she always had. Still too careful. I felt my fork grow heavy in my hand. The warmth from the roasted turkey felt distant, almost irrelevant. I set it down slowly, deliberately. I already had mine. I said, my voice even but firm. "You got invitations," I added quietly, almost as if stating a fact too obvious to ignore. The room dropped into a silence so sharp it felt physical, like the air itself had thickened. My father leaned forward, whispering so quietly it barely rose above the soft hum of the heater. "We never got them." And in that small moment, a door opened in my chest, letting in a flood of everything I had felt but never spoken. Growing up, I learned early that my family loved symmetry. Perfect photos. Perfect milestones. Perfect stories to tell other people. And in every single one of those stories, Lily was the center. I wasn't bitter as a child. I assumed that was just how families worked. One child shone, the other made room. By the time we were teenagers, the pattern wasn't a pattern anymore. It was a structure, a system carefully maintained. My mother curated Lily's life as if it were a brand: new showroom collection dance classes, cheer tryouts, a gallery of awards hung in the hallway, each one perfectly framed, perfectly lit. Whenever I had my own moments, science fair ribbons, college acceptance letters, small personal victories, my mother would smile politely and ask if I could take the picture later. "I need the light to be perfect for Lily's new headshot," she would say, as if my achievements existed only to be scheduled around hers. I adapted. I got good at watching, learning, anticipating. I learned to survive quietly, to blend into the background while the world applauded someone else. It was a skill, a quiet kind of survival, but it wasn't peace. Seattle changed me. Moving 3 hours away wasn't rebellion, it was oxygen. I built a life. A small apartment with tall windows and stacks of research notes everywhere. Shirts that smelled like the coffee Ethan made every morning. My job analyzing water and environmental data might not have impressed my mother's social circle, but it mattered to me. It made sense. And Ethan, he saw me in ways my own family never even attempted. He listened. He noticed the small details. He remembered the things I thought invisible. His family noticed me too, not because I performed for them, but because they cared. Helen hugged me once, and it wasn't just a quick, obligatory squeeze. She held me warm and certain, asking about my work, remembering specifics, taking time to see me. Robert did the same. They weren't perfect people, but they were present, and that was new. So, when Ethan proposed on a foggy June morning by the water, I said yes without hesitation. We didn't want a grand production. We chose a small coastal chapel, invited only the people who truly knew us, kept everything simple, real. The only thing I quietly, stubbornly wished for was that my parents and Lily would show up. That maybe, just for once, they'd choose me. I designed the invitations myself, had them printed early, and mailed them with signature required. I triple-checked the addresses. I tracked each package obsessively, refreshing the postal tracking like a ritual. I knew my family's tendency to misplace anything that wasn't immediately useful to them. When everything showed as delivered, I allowed myself a small moment of relief. Then the silence began. No calls, no texts. Not even a single casual congratulations in the family group chat. Weeks passed. The wedding came and went. And still nothing. I tried to tell myself stories to soften the blow. Maybe the mail got mixed up. Maybe they were planning a surprise. Maybe they were waiting for the right moment. But deep down, a colder, sharper thought took root. Someone didn't want those invitations seen. And I didn't know how right I was until that Thanksgiving night. The table was set perfectly, as always. White tablecloth, polished silverware, a flickering candle at the center like a page from a magazine. It all looked immaculate, but it couldn't hide the tension that had begun to settle over my shoulders, a familiar coat I had long since stopped asking to remove. Lily was already near the fireplace, posing for photos, her husband adjusting her hair, rehearsing smiles as if the camera were an audience in itself. My mother fussed over the turkey, narrating every detail of Lily's September wedding for anyone who might listen. My father poured wine mechanically, eyes already tired, resigned. Not one person asked how I had been. Not one mentioned the wedding they had chosen to ignore. I took my seat across from Lily. She didn't look at me. She didn't need to. Silence can be a performance, and she had always been good at it. The silence after the wedding didn't just sit there. It stretched, grew heavy, seeped into every corner of my life like a slow leak, a shadow creeping over all my small joys. At first, I waited. People get busy, I told myself. They'll call, they'll text. They'll at least ask why they didn't get an invitation. But days became weeks, and the quiet didn't soften. It hardened. It wasn't just neglect. It was intentional. I tried to reach out. A call to my mother went straight to voicemail. A message to my father received a polite, "I'll call later," which never came. The family group chat, the one we'd had since I was in college, no longer included me. I wasn't removed loudly. I was erased quietly. The realization hit in waves, each one sharper than the last. This wasn't forgetfulness. Someone had deliberately blocked me out. One night, while washing dishes, trying to sound casual, I muttered to Ethan, "Maybe it's a glitch." My hands trembled slightly, though I tried to hide it behind the sponge and suds. Ethan dried his hands, gave me that steady, unjudging look that had always grounded me, and asked simply, "Kat, did they ever respond to the invitations at all?" I shook my head, barely able to admit the truth out loud. He didn't push. He didn't accuse. He just said, "Let's check the logs." He guided me through the family email system, something I would never have known how to do alone. And then, there it was, the access logs. One invitation notice opened, deleted, permanently erased. The timestamp was precise, undeniable. It wasn't a glitch. It wasn't an accident. Someone had gone out of their way to make sure no one saw my messages. The worst part, I already knew who. I could picture Lily in the kitchen of our childhood home, scanning the mail like a gatekeeper of every family secret. She had always been the one mom trusted with her appointments, the one dad asked to sort the bills, the one who decided which calls mattered and which didn't. If something passed through that house, it passed through Lily first. If it was seen, it was because she allowed it. She was preparing for her own massive September wedding, 350 guests, designer gown, custom everything. Her life revolved around being the center of attention. My wedding, even small, even quiet, could have shifted the spotlight. And Lily never shared attention willingly. Still, I needed proof. I pulled up the tracking receipts I'd meticulously saved: 4 packages, 4 signatures, my name as sender, their address as destination. And at the bottom of one, that familiar curl of handwriting, Lily. I stared at it, throat tight, pulse quickening. She hadn't forgotten. She hadn't misplaced them. She had intercepted them. She had ensured that nobody saw my wedding at all. Ethan reached for my arm gently. "Kat, what do you want to do?" Anger would have been easier. Rage would have made sense. But the feeling that rose in me was something deeper, something older. A familiar wound reopening. Cold and sharp. What do you do when the people you love deliberately choose not to see you? Thanksgiving was coming. I almost skipped it. Almost let them pretend I didn't exist. But pretending had built this mess in the first place. So I made a different choice. I went, carrying the truth with me like a shield. The house looked perfect from the outside. White tablecloth, polished silverware, a flickering candle in the center like a page from a glossy holiday spread. But as I stepped through the door, I felt it. The old tension settling over my shoulders like a coat I never asked to wear. Lily was already at the fireplace, posing for photos. Her husband fussed with her hair like they were shooting a holiday card, their smiles rehearsed and impeccable. My mother fussed over the turkey, narrating every detail of Lily's September wedding to anyone who would listen. My father poured wine with mechanical precision, eyes tired, resigned. Not one person asked how I'd been. Not one mentioned the wedding they had actively ignored. I took my seat across from Lily. She didn't look at me. She didn't need to. Silence can be a performance. And she had always been good at it. Dinner began with the usual script praise for Lily's dress, her venue, her guest list, her connections. Each sentence was a reminder that they had consistently shown up for her while erasing my own milestones. Then my mother tapped her glass, bright and deliberate. Sister's wedding was great, she said, glancing at Lily as if for confirmation. So, Kat, when's yours? The table chuckled nervously. Even the turkey knife in my father's hand paused mid-air, unsure which side to take. Lily's eyes remained fixed on her plate. Too still. Too careful. That told me everything. I set my fork down deliberately. I already had mine, I said, calm and measured. The shift in the room was instantaneous, like someone had pulled the air out. I waited a beat, letting the silence settle, then added, "You got invitations." Forks froze, eyes widened. My mother's smile collapsed. My father blinked, uncertain. Across from me, Lily's face didn't move. That was the tell. She knew exactly where this was going, and she couldn't stop it. "Kat," my father said carefully, "we never got any invitations. There it is." I replied softly, reaching into my bag and placing my phone on the table. The screen glowed, reflecting in the stemware, catching the candlelight like a blade. Every pair of eyes locked onto it. This was the line I'd never crossed before. The boundary I had never drawn. The moment I stopped allowing myself to be rewritten. As I tapped the screen, the receipts opened in a neat list. 4 deliveries. 4 signatures, all marked received. I zoomed in on the first one, rotating the phone so the table could see. The looping confident signature at the bottom, Lily. My mother gasped softly, hand flying to her mouth. My father leaned forward, like seeing the truth up close would make it count. Ryan stiffened, glancing from the screen to his wife, as though some unspoken language had been suddenly revealed. Lily didn't move. I felt my pulse in my fingertips, but my voice remained calm. Delivered April 23rd. All 4, all intercepted. The room was silent. For the first time, the silence wasn't ignorance. It was exposure. The room felt suspended in that silence, heavy and precise. For years I had let moments like this pass, letting my voice be small, letting my presence be ignored. But now I held the evidence in my hand, glowing on the screen like truth itself had taken shape. "Chat," my father whispered, voice tight. "This must be a mistake." "It's not," I said calmly, swiping to the next screenshot. "This is the tracking log from the Postal Service. Priority mail. Signature required. All confirmed, all delivered, and all intercepted." My mother shook her head violently. No, that makes no sense. "Lily would never." "Oh, stop!" I said gently, firmly, not harsh, just done. "You keep saying what Lily wouldn't do, but you never look at what she actually does." My mother froze, her face drained. Ryan finally spoke, voice low. "Lily, did you sign for these?" Lily blinked, mechanical, like she was rebooting her expression. I don't remember. Maybe sometimes I grabbed the mail, but I didn't see any invitations." I stayed quiet. I had learned long ago that silence can speak louder than accusation. My father pressed, harder now. "You didn't see 4 packages from your sister around the time you knew she was engaged." "It's not my job to track everyone's mail." Lily's composure cracked slightly. I tilted my head. "Then why does the signature match your handwriting?" Her mouth opened, closed, opened again. I clicked it by accident. I don't know. Why are you attacking me?" "I'm not attacking you," I said, calm. "I'm showing you what you did." My mother exhaled harshly. "Why would Lily ever hide your invitations? Why would she sabotage your wedding? That's ridiculous." There it was. The sentence they had been polishing for years, the defense that excused every hurt, every overlooked milestone. "Why?" I asked again. "Because my wedding happened in June. Hers was in September." I turned to Lily. "Because you didn't want anyone talking about mine before yours." Lily flinched, the truth hitting her like a slap she had been avoiding her whole life. "That's insane," she hissed. You always twist things to make me look bad. No, I said steadily. You did that yourself? Ryan's chair scraped as he stood, voice low. Lily, is this true? She stared down at her napkin, breath shaking. Aye. Everyone always thinks Kat is so innocent. She never needs anything. She never wants anything. She ruins nothing for anyone. She just exists and makes everyone feel what I asked softly makes everyone feel small. Makes everyone feel guilty. Like they didn't try enough. Ah, there it was. The real confession. Not about the invitations, but about every year before them. I leaned back slightly. So you hid my wedding because what? Because it was quiet. Because it didn't compete with your 6-tier cake and rented string quartet. That's not. She gasped. But the truth was already hanging in the air, undeniable. Ket, my father said desperately. We didn't know. If we'd known we would have, you would have done for Lily. For me. You did the bare minimum and called it fairness. I finished for him. Lily slumped in her chair, shoulders collapsing. Even she couldn't defend that. The weight of decades pressed into my chest, but it was no longer grief. It was clarity. I looked at each of them, the people I had silently begged for recognition my whole life, and I told the truth. I didn't lose my family tonight, I said. I just stopped pretending I had one. My mother gasped. Kat, don't you dare talk like that. Why? I asked. Because it threatens the story you built. The one where Lily is perfect. Dad is neutral. I'm the problem. You're also invested in keeping me small. No one said you're the problem, Dad whispered. You didn't need to, I replied. You showed it over and over. Ryan sank back into his chair, watching the pieces of his marriage rearrange themselves into a shape he didn't recognize. Lily whispered, Chat, please. That single word carried years of fear, guilt, and the sudden realization that her control was gone. I stood slowly, pushing my chair back. I'm done begging for a place at this table. I'm done asking you to show up for me. I'm done pretending Lily's choices don't hurt me. I'm done accepting your silence as anything but agreement. I took a deep breath. I'm done. My father stood. Kat, don't go. We can talk. We are talking, I said firmly, for the first and last time under these terms. My mother's eyes brimmed with tears. We can fix this. You can't fix what you refuse to acknowledge, I said. And you refused for years. I pulled my coat over my shoulders and walked to the door. I paused just long enough to say clearly, You didn't miss my wedding, you chose not to see it. Then I stepped outside. Not dramatically, not loudly, just firmly. A clean final line drawn. For the first time in my life. The silence that followed belonged to me. Ethan opened the door before I even reached it, like he had been listening for my footsteps. One look at my face, and he didn't ask questions. He just wrapped me in his arms and held me until the shaking stopped. No questions, no judgment. Just presence, something my family had never mastered. The next morning, his parents invited us over for a simple breakfast. No ceremony, no pity, just warm food, real conversation, and attention that didn't have to be earned. Helen squeezed my hand. Your family here. Not because you married my son. Because you matter. Weeks later, Lily sent a long email. Therapy. Soft apologies. Admitting more than I expected, I rate it. I didn't reply, my darefully taking small steps. I let him try. He even found one of my wedding invitations, buried in a storage box in the garage, and mailed it to me quietly. That was the closest he came to a real apology. My mother never reached out. And for the first time, that absence didn't feel like a wound. It felt like an answer. I used to believe family was something you protected at all costs. But standing in my own home, with Ethan cooking dinner, laughter drifting in from friends who choose me every day, I finally understood the truth. Family isn't who shares your blood. It's who shows up. It's who listens. It's who stays. And sometimes, the bravest thing you can do is walk away from the people who never learned how to hold you.